Nothing said on 0x Research is a recommendation to buy or sell securities or tokens. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and any views expressed by anyone on the show are solely our opinions, not financial advice. Boccaccio, Ryan, and our guests may hold positions in the companies, funds, or projects discussed.
Welcome. Good morning. Welcome to another 0x Research live stream, joined by my co-host Boccaccio. How you doing, Bach? And we've got Tokes and James Christoph, prominent Wolf Swap development team members and Telegram group members, frequent podcast listeners, all the relevant titles that you might want to mention there. How are we doing today, guys?
Good.
Wonderful.
How are you?
Happy Friday. Happy Friday.
TGIF, man. Woo.
Gonna get some pints tonight?
Brewskis. I don't think so.
James, any thoughts? You're quiet over there right now. It's not normal. He doesn't realize he's muted.
He's busy.
He's gun shy right now. That's fine.
Wait, I'm not muted, am I? No.
He's back.
No, geez, I was talking to myself. Oh my god.
Welcome to the show, James. What were you saying?
Hey.
We missed it.
I was just saying I'm actually doing a little bit of work right now, so I'm multitasking. I apologize if I'm a little quiet.
Sorry, you don't have to lie to us and say that you're working. We know. Everyone knows that you're not working right now, but that's okay. Awesome. Well, Ryan Connor's going to join us later. I don't know when exactly. He wasn't very explicit about that. Dan Smith rugged us today. I think we were going to have a little bit of a conversation discussion around PumpFun. I think we'll save that for later for when Ryan comes, because I know he's very eager to talk about that in detail. Bach said he's not eager to talk about that because we've talked about it 6 or 7 times on the past 6 or 7 pods in a row. So I don't know, Bach, what are you thinking about? Is there something you would like to talk about?
I am looking at 2 to 3 things. I like Ethereum DeFi plays, if you can find anything relatively sexy. And on the second, I think we might have a mini further Arbitrum season. Obviously, Talos has done quite well. I imagine that brings some attention over. And we'll see what On-Chain Labs has next for us. But this was actually kind of a struggle for me because there's a few apps launching on Arbitrum over the upcoming few months, but the existing Arbitrum DeFi is kind of dead. You don't really want to buy GMX because they just had that hack. Also, I don't see how sustainable that model is as a perps model, even though they were, before the hack, they had quite a few. They had quite a bit of revenue. Well, I don't know how that's going to work out. They used to have Vertex, which I feel like was Arbitrum native, obviously shut down. Apart from there was a time where you had maybe 8, 9 things that you could long whenever Arbitrum was getting a season. Grail was a big one. Now it kind of feels dead, so I'm looking for non-dead Arbitrum native projects, which I think I imagine they're going to launch a few, and I imagine there's a few coming up. But that's it.
Yep. What's the relationship between what is it, off-chain labs, right, and then on-chain labs? They're kind of
I think they're companies. Officially the off-chain labs is app layer team. I don't know if that's official, but they tweeted about it multiple times, so I imagine as official as it can get. I don't know, these lab structures are always very convoluted. They seem to have the full backing. I imagine it's 1-to-1, and they're part of one another, sister company, brother company, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, apart from that, not really that much going on.
I guess I'll give 2 shout outs. 1, just a quick thanks to Aptos for sponsoring this stream, but then 2, Shonda Devon's in the Telegram right now telling me that Pear is on ARB. He did just write about Pear. So maybe a quick shout out on that one. I don't know if you have strong thoughts. Have you dug into that, to his thesis, his viewpoint there?
I have. I think his thesis was more so like that it's undervalued and not that it's like the greatest product on earth. I don't pair trade, to be honest with you guys. And I imagine most people who are pair trading very, very actively are just putting on their own positions through the Hyperliquid front end. But from what he wrote, it was that they raised at a premium to their market cap and they raised quite a bit of cash, and then they were like very low FTV, and they were launching on Hyperliquid. Originally was on GMX, so it made sense as a thesis back then. I'm sure it still does. I haven't bought it. So
That's a smack favorite too, and
Yeah.
I don't like being in the business of fading smack, but I had no idea it was. Yeah, I mean, it was at like 4 mil market cap like last week.
yeah,
So it's up. Yeah, it's up 100% this week.
Uh,
That's
That's-
interesting. Yeah, I personally haven't used it. I'll put that on the weekend to-do list. But yeah, I think you're kind of on something with
Are
the
you-
art stuff.
Are you a big pair trader, Tolks? You don't seem like a big pair trader.
Not really, no. From time to time, but I think it is kind of one of the most like, I don't know, underrated. Like you don't have to look at much more than, I mean, you shouldn't really be perp trading in general, but and then pair trading is another level. But I do think that the ratios are really important. I mean, obviously everybody has talked about ETH BTC forever, and I tweeted earlier this week that I'm a little concerned, not concerned, but just monitoring the fact that Sol ETH and Sol BTC might be the new ETH BTC of the past, kind of 3 years, where everything else runs and then Sol runs last, and then kind of the market dies, which is kind of what's happened this week. BTC ran, ETH ran, Sol ran, and then once Sol ran, hit 200, and then everything kind of started puking. So that's definitely something I'm watching. But yeah, I mean the pair trades they're incredibly important. I mean it's such a simple concept, but you pair stuff against BTC and ETH and so on. Like if you're not outperforming those, then nothing else really matters.
One thing I want to add here is that we talked about this. Was it last live stream? It was with Ian and Teddy. Danny, was this last time? And we mentioned the same thing, folks. Essentially, that Sol. Ian was very upset, but there is a chance that there is like meme coin season is the best way to gamble this cycle, but NFTs were the best way to gamble last cycle, and we will see how everything goes. On the other hand, they did have a pretty bulky upgrade recently with compute units.
Yeah, the BAM upgrade was great, but it's more so like it's not necessarily for me like a comment on on-chain trading, like any of that. Like we've talked about that endlessly in the past, and I think there's some like I don't know baseline level that it's not going to go beneath, but it's more so about just the treasury vehicles and the ETF flows. Like that's not something that you should try and stand in the way of. And BTC and ETH right now, like the flows they're getting through those vehicles are just like that's what the main kind of momentum in the market is right now, and there's no reason to kind of go against those two assets that have these institutional flows. Like we've said it in the past again, but like it's really really hard when you operate in crypto for a living to understand, especially if you're outside of the States, to understand like the depth of capital that is in these markets. Like it's just bonkers. So that's kind of the main reason that Sol's been underperforming, in my opinion, is just because of SBET and BMNR and the ETF flows. Like you just until Sol gets essentially a BlackRock ETF, like whenever that comes, I just kind of think it'll be like I said, kind of in that ETH BTC of the past 3 years range, where it should start kind of raising some alarm signals in your head when Sol starts outperforming for any meaningful amount of time. At least that's what I think moving forward.
Any takes, James Christopher? Dude, this guy just hopped on the line.
Dude.
He's double dipping. He hopped on the live stream just to work.
He's silent, bro. James, what happened to you, man? You used to be so outspoken.
But yeah, is that what you guys were talking about? Like you said, Bach with Ian, just kind of that thesis of Sol kind of being the last to perform.
Yeah, this is something Glug also. Shout out Glug.
shout out Glug.
No, but he does. He talks about this a lot, and he says every time Sol BTC reaches like some level on his little pretty technical analysis chart, like we nuke. And I think that's a fair take to have. Like, I know not a lot of people believe in TA, but if Sol is like dominating all attention, and then there's like a pretty big liquidity sink on it, and it's like the last end of the risk curve, then it might be denoting that. Like historically, it's been Cosmos and Atom. Like anytime Atom pumps, you're like, I'm out. And then it was ETH, and then maybe
ETH for like 3 years. Yeah. I also think, I mean, Sol definitely there's some signal there, but I also think something I mentioned last week when we got off the stream to Danny, like the hype weakness was kind of something that was kind of piquing my interest too, just because as like Sol was the dominant performer in like 23, once it kind of like started being a little weak, it was kind of a signal to the market. You know, Sol BTC and Sol ETH outperformed for so long, and Sol as an asset. And then when it kind of got to like local tops, the market would kind of local top. And hype has been really since, you know, launch kind of been in that spot that Sol had is kind of, you know, the favorite alt that outperforms pretty much everything. So the Sol weakness, or the hype weakness, sorry, has been kind of interesting to me for 2 weeks. And I think that kind of signals a little bit of risk off. And I mean, we kind of have been risk off generally for the last week or two. So I'll be looking for hype to kind of lead the way as well.
I mean, it's kind of the first thing that goes up, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing, like and then it's kind of just been, you know, lagging and weak for almost like 2 weeks now. And then, you know, you look at kind of what BTC's done since then, and some alts have outperformed. But yeah, I think it's kind of just a broader signal to the market because of how strong it's been in the past, you know, year plus.
Yeah, I think to your point about like some of the stepping in front of some of those institutional flows for like Bitcoin, ETH, or even Sol at this point, like that seems to me to be a big factor here, where, you know, a lot of the on-chain activity, I mean, we're still kind of like hanging out at relative lows after dropping off from Q1 kind of activity. You know, there's been a tick up since like March, April, when there was kind of like max fear in all markets. But you know, I don't think like the Sol numbers reflect like the 2x from when it was down, you know, near or below 100 to back jumping all the way back up to 200. And the same goes for ETH, right? Like, but when you know that Bitminer is raising $5 billion to shove into the asset, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, you're not going to short
some
them down when you know they're
confidence.
going to buy it at any price and just shove it into the market. Like, it's kind of a weird,
Yeah.
it's an interesting dynamic, I think. I saw Smack maybe mention this as well, or maybe it was Noah actually talking about Sol being at 200 or whatever, but him kind of thinking lower was the right number if you took out Treasury Co's purchases.
Yeah. I mean, even with ETH, like, I mean, that's kind of the thing I've been thinking about this, like, you know, the past couple of weeks is all these treasury vehicles, all the ETF inflows. But like, you kind of look at, you know, the fundamental aspects, and like, you know, it's, I mean, you get ultrasound money, you look at like, you know, the number of users using the chain, the number of users using L2s, like all that stuff is still kind of down from, you know, I want to say what, like 24 peak, like December-ish. So it's kind of interesting in that aspect. But again, it goes back to just the fundamental aspect of like these institutional, like US capital market flows are just so large that like there's absolutely no reason to step in front of them. And you have two assets that are essentially blessed in that regard, and people are bidding it, and there's no reason to you know, to step in front of that. But yeah, as far as like the fundamental aspect goes, like it is kind of interesting that nothing, no metrics really would, in my opinion, I mean, stablecoin growth has been awesome. But outside of that, like there's not really metrics that should support necessarily ETH up, you know, 50% in a month. But again, like these flows are insane. People are buying, so like there's no reason to try and step in front of that. You just kind of just ride with it.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think we lost him, man. I actually don't. I'm worried for James. I'm worried someone has showed up at his place and taken him out.
He's got to work on the wolf swap docs.
I guess the other thing for Sol, not that like necessarily being consensus or non-consensus like is always absolute, like the absolute market mover on these massive assets, but kind of the story there of it basically becoming like a full consensus like winner. We kind of had the complete flip-flop, right, where it was like ETH is everything, and then over a few years that kind of swapped into like, okay, Solana is winning all this stuff now, and ETH is just like such a big stinky loser. And that sentiment kind of flipped a couple months ago. And I guess there's some questions going forward here. Like we have Jito Bam, and I think maybe this concept of like, fees go down, but then if throughput goes up, like, do we in the immediate or near term see like a reduction in REV that, you need like another step function, like wave of fresh demand to like pump the aggregate number higher, and that impacts the valuation. So there's questions there. I don't know. Do you want to talk about Zora, Bonk? Dan Smith was asking for it. I'd be curious your take. I think it's had another like wave of excitement again. I think it's maybe worth reviewing it, giving a updated viewpoint, or if it's the same viewpoint. But Zora, the big thing is they got integrated into like the base app now, which is like in private beta. And they kind of like updated the flywheel, I suppose, a little bit. So there's like a kind of stack of coins now. There's like the Zora coin, and then there's like a creator coin, and then there's like a coin per post for a creator. To me, like, I'm not any more excited than I was when they dropped the token, and back a few months ago when they had kind of like a blow off of activity from Jesse Pollock and the base team kind of bull posting about it.
What's the dude? Can I tell you something? I don't think I've ever longed or shorted or looked at the chart for Zora. It's down 20% today.
Pull it up. You got it?
After it went up 300%. So,
I'm pulling up the. We do have a Zora dashboard. That's what I'm looking for something in here.
Okay, 140 mil market cap. I imagine this is mostly because of the integration to the base app. Logically, this application does not make sense to me. Still, it does not make sense to me. But that might just be me mid curving it. Like, do you know what I mean? I don't think people want to post for money. I think it's gosh. I don't know how you pronounce it in English. Anyway, but I mean, there's a large part of the population who do a lot of things for money on the internet. So who am I to say, like, you should do this, you should do that? And we'll see. I think this is like a pretty clear example of something that I always talk about and that I fought with people over. In crypto, fundamentals do not matter as much as people think they do. Like, we have gone in a year and a half from fundamentals do not matter at all. Only thing is narrative. Do you guys remember 2023? And it was just like lists of narratives being posted on Twitter, like notes and whatnot. And then immediately afterwards, we completely switched up, and everybody's talking about REV and revenue and fees. And they're like, oh, but like Zora, it makes 30 grand a year. Like, it does, but there are other plays that like there are other things in crypto that matter more than like, it's such a nascent market that you can't, and even in like traditional markets, does it really, like, a lot of fundamentals don't really matter. Like if you pull up the Tesla chart, I think Elon Musk tweeted out today that like 20 trillion will require good execution, but it's not impossible for Tesla. And it's like that type of stuff moves markets on Tesla. So like Zora gets integrated into the base app, which people are probably using to farm it, and then they're just like buying XYZ on the Zora app, like just minting. I mean, I'm sure you guys spent last week like at least opening up the Zora app and buying one or two people, right? Like it's not a crazy. I did. I mean, maybe you didn't.
No.
Okay,
I just bought the token instead of buying that stuff. Yeah.
Whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like this kind of stuff, I think crypto's so nascent that things like that matter. Announcements matter. Integrations matter. BD matters quite a bit. I mean, that matters in real, like in TradFi as well. But I don't know. I think we kind of overcorrected, and then a lot of people miss like. And then we do the Zora versus Pump thing, where like Pump technically is a gray asset, but also maybe not because like usage is going down. I'm cognizant that I said I don't want to talk about Pump, and then I brought it up. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, like Pump's fantastic, made 800 mil last year, and then it's like it's down what 60, 70% on perps, whatever, 50% on ITO, and then Zora's up 135% all time. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add. The only, I think you're definitely right about announcements mattering. This is the only thing that I'm looking at, like in terms of people using the platform right now, is trading fees on the coins trading, and it's just like been this thing where announcements about, okay, we're doing coins now back in February, and it pumps activity for a week, and then Jesse and the team at Base post about it in April, and they do an airdrop and it pumps for a week, and then now it's integrated into the Base app, and it's been about a week. Like I guess let's see what happens. I'd be happy to be wrong here, but I kind of tend to agree with you that like I don't necessarily know that this is like a product that people actually want. I would agree that like sure, yeah, people want to make money, that's for sure, and I'm sure the people who are like have some posts on here that have like made them some cash are happy about that. I just don't know if this like really is like the right product format or for like growing into mass appeal in the future, or even like growing to mass appeal within just the crypto native audience today.
The video was good. I'll give that to Jesse. It was a good second attempt at the video where, just framing it as, and I mean, there's some gray area there, but framing it as a social media platform that you can post on and make money versus, another platform that you can't. We'll see the sustainability of it. I don't know. I mean, sometimes, I think it's okay to say that the base team and Jesse sometimes are a little, I don't know, out of touch and cringe a little bit, but I applaud them for doing, trying things. They're in the arena trying things.
That's what we always say about shit projects. Oh, it's an experiment.
They're in the arena.
They're doing something. It could work out.
No, yeah. I don't know. I do applaud them for that though. Like, I don't know. I mean, they have the Coinbase wallet. They obviously Coinbase, the amount of users they have, like there's something there that might eventually perfectly thread the needle. But I'm not sure it's necessarily Zora. I hold the coin now, so I hope it's Zora and it goes to $3 trillion. But outside of that, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. It'll be interesting to watch the metrics over the next couple of months. I think Dan Smith tweeted out the metrics a couple times this week, and I am always kind of interested in stuff. It was kind of the early like Sol bull case where you could see that obviously after FTX, like everything died, but then there started to be a slow trickle up of users and transactions. And I do think that Zora, the metrics kind of have a chart like that where it literally essentially like died and went to zero for like a month, the metrics, and then when they start scaling back up, like there's something to pay attention to there, because generally in crypto, like when things have that initial push and then they die, like they generally don't come back. So anything where you see kind of that like U shape on, the metrics, whether it's, users, fees, transactions, obviously there's a lot of, more granular details that you need to dig through than just those, but it is kind of interesting in that aspect, because that is kind of like one of, especially as, we used to kind of transition from cycle to cycle, like that was one of the most profitable things in the world, is to understand like kind of what died, and 99% of the stuff never comes back. But there is kind of that 1% that does come back and ends up being massive. So I think it's interesting from that aspect. I'll keep watching it, monitoring it, but yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, I guess the like looking forward, the bull case for them is that they have like there's a big strength in having Base and kind of Coinbase in your corner from like a distribution perspective. So like if they can make the right product, like a meaningful product that people like, and it's integrated into all these Coinbase products for them, like that's a big leg up over any other like crypto social or like crypto trading product that's starting from zero. So I think that gives them an advantage. I think it's just a question of like, will this thing really take off? So far, we haven't really seen like the success hasn't like compounded, right? It's the announcements and like the exciting things kind of pump the activity up, and then it's faded away every time. So would like to see some consistency there, I guess, is the main thing.
I'd also like to make sure that they don't fuck it up, because oftentimes Base ecosystem apps will launch something and then they'll just fuck it up. Like, do you guys remember Dracula? Do you remember Dracula?
Yeah.
Like the Dracula
Yeah.
founder kind of screwed that one up, though.
He just fucked it up. Like they get something going and then they just fuck it up. I don't know why they do it, but I don't know. It kind of feels like every time they get like a lot of attention, they have a little weird moment. I'm sure it won't happen this time.
All right. Cool. Well, before we jump into the next thing, I'm going to do a quick shout out. Our sponsor for today's stream. Quick shout out for Aptos. Bitcoin DeFi is heating up on Aptos with nearly 400 million in BTC assets on chain. Aptos users can now earn yield on their Bitcoin via Echo aBTC and OKX xBTC without the typical bridge risks and high fees. Thanks again to Aptos for sponsoring today's stream. Let's jump back into it.
Can we come back?
Bonk disappeared.
I left. No, we're very. What's next?
Yeah, I guess there's two things I was curious if you wanted to talk about. One that I think is interesting is buybacks potentially. I know Byron from the editorial team, he wrote like an interesting article on buybacks going like way back in the history of companies. I think it's become like a bit more of a thing. Like we don't necessarily need to talk about Pump specifically, but like obviously there's a lot of happiness and excitement around Hyperliquid 97% buyback. We've talked a lot about like this like fight over the double kind of the token equity model, this like two asset struggle. And I think we've mentioned as well, like right now the market kind of punishes you if you don't do a buyback, right? Like you don't give faith to like your token holders if you're not doing some kind of buyback, but it leaves open this question of like how punishing like should the market be, and if someone is doing a buyback, like what's that right number today? You know, is Hype doing the right thing by doing 97%? Like should it be all of it? Should it be 100% because you have no faith that you know, maybe because the status quo for so long has been that just like, you know, labs teams take all the money, you know, the equity holders basically take all the money and don't ever like do anything for the token or for the benefit of the token in the long run? Or is there some leeway here now with the kind of trajectory, a little bit at least, that some newer protocols have been on in directing, you know, flows back to tokens, growth, development growth, and like funds that positively impact the token in the long run? Curious both of your takes here. Like fuck it, give everything to the token, or no, that's stupid. Some amount is meaningful though.
I think Hyperliquid's probably a bit of a unique case just because I hold it and I don't want to say anything bad. I imagine I imagine the right answer to this from like a TradFi perspective is to say no, you should reinvest in growth. On the other hand, we have, like you mentioned, labs problems, token and equity structure problems, which I think warrants some form of indication to the market and to general investors, that token investors, that the token will accrue value to an extent, and one way to do that is through buybacks. Another way to do that is just by like returning, I guess, to stakers, etc., paying out dividends, however that's going to work. I don't know. This is like a really tough question, because on the one hand, it's like if you buy back $4 million of your token a day, that's fantastic for investors. You know what I mean? Especially if you're like quite dominant in your field. It's like Hyperliquid has been doing this since December, and I can't fault them for it, because like they've upgraded the chain since then. They've continued to dominate. It's not like they're losing market share, so I don't really see like the counter argument to that is like maybe they should have grown. They could have grown faster if they hadn't. It's definitely tricky. I imagine they're like quite a rich team already, just based off their background. So maybe they're building it out as like, we don't really need immediate payment. We would rather just like do whatever we have to do with the tokens eventually, that are allocated to them. And let's also like not like, okay, you don't have the cash to spend to do acquisitions, but they have a hefty team allocation because they didn't give out any VC allocation. So I think they have like much larger than what regular teams would have. So I imagine A, they're still incentivized. B, I think they're incentivized to just build everything in-house as much as they can. Yeah, and like other teams who have reinvested the money, they haven't done as much as Hyperliquid. It's like a what if type of situation for Hyperliquid, so it's tough. It's been fine since now, like until now. For other projects, I think it's just kind of shaky, right? Like, oh, no. No.
Oh man, we got the
Why
dumb
did we
one
do this?
on.
For other
Dumb
projects,
Sorry,
one.
guys.
How you
Everyone's
doing?
busy. I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Good. Fox crashing out right now.
I'm not crashing out. I gave
Just
a
kidding.
reason. I'm not fucking crashing out, man.
No, he's giving a well thought out response about how much in buybacks is the right amount.
All of it,
Yeah.
$4 million a day into one token that I
It
hold.
depends. Yeah, it depends if I'm long or not. If I'm long, it should be 100%. If I'm not, then we can have a discussion. But I mean, kind of what Bach touched on, like I do kind of think it's kind of like sector and token, protocol like specific, because there are, some protocols in crypto, like, I mean, like Aave, for example, like, it's been around for like what, 6-7 years now, like, and they keep, horizontally expanding, but like, I don't know, some of the protocols that end up taking a giant market share in crypto are like so ridiculously sticky year over year at like some base level that like I think reinvesting in growth is good, but like some percentage should be used for the token buyback. Like the bridge yesterday announced that they were going to put 100% of protocol revenue back into the token moving forward. Went up like 35%, and like yeah, you could say maybe they should save that money and reinvest it into future growth, but like realistically, like you want them. It depends on the protocol, because like what is the bridge going to kind of horizontally expand into? Like obviously that's the fever dream for every protocol to just be like endlessly horizontally and vertically expand all these new areas, but like is that actually realistic? Like the bridge has a good product and they're just going to take revenue and put it back into token for the foreseeable future, and like I think that's probably the right thing to do. I mean 100% is obviously a lot, but yeah, I don't know. I just think it's kind of token and protocol specific, depends on the situation. And it is kind of one of those things that's a little tricky, because you can see, the vision and the TradFi version of like, yeah, you should reinvest into growth and acquiring things. But crypto's still like, I don't know. Like I said, there's very specific things that like I don't really think can horizontally expand that much, you know. So if that's the case, then I'm fine with them putting, you know, whatever amount back into the token instead of, you know, reinvesting into this hypothetical, you know, future growth and expansion.
I will say, kind of interestingly, or maybe like, yeah, I guess in crypto, it's interesting because it's fought. I don't know if it's easier, but it just seems to be that way, that like you can have a small team or like a single founder come out and get enough money to just like fund their lifestyle, basically, to go and like build an app. And in 2-3 months, they can have, you know, they can be operating at, you know, over 100 million ARR, which, or, you know, maybe it's not really recurring by the typical definition, but, you know, pulling in like 100 million plus revenue for a protocol, and not really requiring a ton of upfront expense to do that. Like you can just go out and ship a product that's better, and steal a bunch of market share. It's funny to me how like kind of maybe on the edge of some of these like spaces, these apps kind of seem or claim to be, and yet like it's not so uncommon for like in the trading app space. There's constantly like every 3 to 6 months, there's a new one that comes out, ships, you know, 5-6 better features, offers like a better interface broadly, a better app for the traders, and then they take all the market share and they run that for a couple of months and they make, you know, a couple $100 million, and then a few months later, like I don't know, they like slow down. They don't have that edge anymore, maybe because they already made the bag, and then another founder comes along and does the same thing. It's just sort of interesting, the dynamic we have here, where like I think there's a case to be made where like, yeah, acquisitions are valuable and like you can do things with that, but there's also a case to be made where, you know, the Axiom guys just showed up into the trading bot space and we're like, we'll just ship a better product and then we'll take all the revenue in this category.
Buck, what are you munching on, buddy?
I got some gum, man.
There we go.
Is
That's
that okay?
nice. Yeah, yeah, that's good. Some chicle. Yeah, I was just thinking about what you guys said.
What are you munching on there, bud?
How the
I think
Keep
like
going, Ian.
for buybacks and stuff like that, like it really does kind of matter. Like what does the protocol actually do? And like, I think Tolk's raises is a good point. It's like also like kind of where is the development coming from? Like what's the team paying themselves? And I think like buybacks in general is just like a subset of like greater alignment around the token. And I think like alignment around the token is key for like any protocol that wants to succeed in the long term. So I think you're going to see it work out well, but I think like the biggest risk with buybacks, honestly, that we'll probably see protocols run into is like poor execution. Whether it's like, you know, because like when companies buy back their stock, hopefully they're doing it at like a valuation that they see. They're confident. They're like, okay, like this is underpriced. Like we can like take some shares off the market. We're confident that we'll be able to like, you know, have this be like this is like a plus EV thing to do. But for like many protocols where it's like just kind of programmatic, I think taking that supply off the market at any level is good for a protocol like Hyperliquid, where like you have deep USD, like Hype USDC liquidity. Like a lot of these other protocols, though, it's like they don't really have great on-chain liquidity. Like for Hyperliquid, like it just makes sense because they're an actual like trading venue. I think that's also why you see like exchanges do stuff like this, where it's like these kind of, you know, they also like own a ton of the supply, and it's just like a lot easier that way. But then for, you know, when you look at Pump, for example, that like was top lasting like 420 soul clips at the top of their chart for at least what is the top right now. It looks pretty dumb in hindsight. But like they are continuing to buy back like small amounts. Like yesterday they were buying back like, I think it was around like 5K clips for a good couple hours. So I think that was it's just like kind of something to keep in mind that you're definitely seeing a lot of protocols put focus around the token, which ultimately I think you need to do.
I really like the pump fund strategy where you ship 18 million in at like 0.6 and then buy 5K at 0.03. That
and buy Pooperora coin in the meantime.
guy.
No, it is interesting. I was laughing this morning just on the topic of buybacks and what we were talking about earlier with the institutional flows and how big they are. Like Schwab approved this morning 20 billion in buybacks to their stock, and like that would put it as number 12 in the market cap rankings. Just those buybacks that they just approved today alone.
Is it Schwab going to jail? Is this related to that, or is this a separate thing?
Charles Schwab, the
No, I'm thinking
financial
of
management platform.
I'm thinking of Klaus from the WEF. I'm very sorry.
Let's go there. That's a good segue, though. That's a good segue. Let's segue into the WEF.
Let's talk about the deep state of it.
It's a good transition from top blasting pump to that.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think that's a great transition.
I definitely agree with you though, Ian. Like to get serious again, like they the execution there in the first few days of buybacks, I think was a bit. I mean, like top blasting is one thing. They were like creating the top candles, like they were pushing the chart up, and like I don't know. I'm sure Ryan Connor would come in and say, you know, you don't want to be actively moving the market when you're buying or selling, you know, an asset that you're working through, and like they actively moved up the market on those first few days of
okay,
buyback.
But counterpoint. Have you ever put in a large wick on something very illiquid and small? It's really fun sometimes.
Yeah, it is really fun, but I don't think you should do it for a $4 billion asset. If that makes sense.
Especially not
I
as
guess
the as like the operators of that asset.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
It gives a silly look, I think. Like, oh, these guys aren't serious.
Especially with no comms, because I think a lot of people are also like momentum trading that of like, it's like, oh yeah, like they're just shipping, they're putting it back in the chart. Let's buy it. And because I mean, that was definitely not all of them that moved the price of that much. Like in hindsight, it was like, like 12 mil on that one day at least.
Yeah.
But I do think like we'll see a lot of protocols that are not Hyperliquid that are trying to do buybacks run into like issues around execution and stuff like that. So I think like longer term, you probably see something like Euler's fee flow model, where like they essentially take like fees on all their products and auction those off, and you can only pay in the auction in the underlying token itself. I think you're going to see a lot more things like that, because then instead of the protocol being the market participant, they're the market facilitator. And so then they're putting the work of like people gathering inventory to price these things appropriately, and like potentially even like make like a profitable arbitrage trade, the same way like any searcher would. I think you'll see that happen a lot more in the future. Like Babylon put out a proposal yesterday to start doing that, which I think will probably be a good thing, because ultimately it's like kind of why like the Eigen token ended up the way it is, because like there's no value accrual back to Eigen itself. So like if you have any protocol that you're making like fees and other tokens, and you're trying to like have value accrual to your own token, it's like you're gonna have to be doing something to facilitate that value accrual through some sort of like market mechanism. And so I think like if you're not like a massive protocol like Hyperliquid, which is like trading based, that's probably the best way to go. And like Hyperliquid already does kind of like other auction things where like, you know, if you're buying a ticker on there or something like that, like with the HIP1 mech, that itself is like an auction thing, and then they just go and like buy back and burn the hype itself. But yeah, I think that's what you see longer term. Fooder XBT, stop buybacks and pay Sydney Sweeney to do an ad.
Did you guys see that actually?
Yeah.
You see American Eagle.
Yeah.
That's American Eagle stock up like what 15% off of their ad with her.
It's so I mean, it's kind of like what Bonk alluded to, and I mean what I've talked about in the past too. Like, you can talk about fundamentals all you want, but like, no, I'm talking about the narratives and just like momentum and like
talking about
that stuff.
Sydney, you know, like, do
No,
not
no, 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 no. But it goes to just like I don't know, just the way that like even Capital and TradFi moves nowadays. Like there is a lot of whether people want it to be there or not, but like there's a lot of narrative and momentum and just like kind of outside attachment factors that have nothing to do with fundamentals. And it just kind of is what it is. Like it's just I don't know. It's kind of I don't know. It's like the new economy. You adapt or die.
Well, I think people are making a bet. They're making a bet on Sydney Sweeney, thinking that it will impact the fundamentals of American Eagle because.
Well, that too, yeah.
People will want to buy their products more.
Doesn't there deserve to go up 25% before anything is even? I don't know.
I don't know. You got to price in the future growth, man. Is that?
I don't think
that's true. Yeah, that's true. But it's just the way that capital markets like operate now. In the internet era, like it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, once I finish my Klarna payments for the Dr. Swatch soap, I'll definitely be taking my talents to American Eagle.
You'll be buying 0.1 share of American Eagle because Robinhood, you can buy fractional shares now.
I'll be buying graphic tees.
Ryan, what do you think about Sydney Sweeney signing with American Eagle? This dude fucking hates me.
He has a hot take here. Load it up.
I don't really know what she does.
She makes
an actress.
She's a model, right?
She's a famous actress.
She's an actor.
What's her big movie?
Oh, her big movie is she did one with that the guy that looks like Ryan Gosling, but he's new. Ryan Glenn. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Glenn Powell. You were close.
I have a huge gap in knowledge on names of actors and actresses in most pop culture.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
she was in White Lotus. That's the only one I know. It's
oh yeah, she was in White Lotus.
TV show.
Season 1. Ryan, have you watched White Lotus?
You know what she was in? Actually, I saw this. She's in. She was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is a favorite of mine. But it was before she was big.
Yeah.
Early.
And Mats and Girls, yeah.
Would you say you're a big Tarantino guy?
Yeah. Big time.
So we're talking about Hulk Hogan while we're on Pop Culture Corner.
Sure.
I'm sad about it.
Yeah, me too.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
I didn't realize the I don't know if you guys saw the like Gawker related details there. I was not aware of that, but some former journalists there got like slammed for being outwardly like, fuck Hulk Hogan or whatever. And then of course the Twitter, what is it called? Community notes were like, yeah, Gawker got destroyed when he countersued because they released his private sex tape online.
Oh, it's one of the best like tech stories there is. Like Peter Thiel, I think they outed Peter Thiel or something. They did a hit piece on Peter Thiel, and then just waited 10 years for the right moment to strike, and then funded Hulk Hogan's lawsuit against them and bankrupted them. Like it's absolute like it's diabolical.
I mean, definitely like I don't know, the like sort of TMZ media like just putting anything out there for view. It's like that's like pre-internet slop. That's like follow around Kanye West and he screams at you like get the fuck off my lawn because he's just so annoyed that there's always reporters in front of his house type of vibe. And it's almost like it's like the scummier version of just like posting slop content online almost.
Yeah, that was like pre-modern internet. I think that was like 2013, 2014 maybe. Yeah. Maybe 2015, but that's as late as it was, yeah.
All right. Well, I think now that Ryan's joined, we're set up to run a conversation here. We want to talk about Pump. Before we talk about Pump, Bach doesn't want to talk about Pump, but I think we kind of have to talk about it
already.
No, I'm saving it for you, Ryan. I knew you were going to be the most outspoken member of this call on Pump. But before we go to Pump, some quick ads for you. Shout out to Aptos, again, our sponsor for today. With nearly 400 million in BTC assets on chain, supported by a secure, fast, and affordable MVM environment, Aptos has become the BTCFi growth chain. Aptos users can now earn yield on their Bitcoin via Echo's aBTC and OKX's xBTC without the typical bridge risks and high fees. With support from Echo, OKX, and Stacks' SBTC, Aptos is the place to go for best-in-class yield on Bitcoin. Appreciate the support, Aptos. As well as our other sponsor for today, Algorand. Thank you, Algorand. AlgoKit 3.0 includes all the tools and open source resources you need to unleash the power and performance of the Algorand blockchain, access a resilient network with instant finality, consistently high throughput and low fees, and layer 1 features like atomic swaps and native assets, no smart contracts required. Whether you're building DeFi protocols, enterprise solutions, or next-gen dApps, AlgoKit has all the tools you need to build faster, safer, and smarter. Thank you to Aptos and Algorand for sponsoring the stream today. Back to it, guys. We have to talk about Pump. I think, the big thing that kicked this off, if anyone has the pictures from Quick Aptos Ad between Sydney Sweeney and Old Coach. Yeah, I'm sure the sponsors will love the attribution there. Big thing I think that kicked off some more of the discussion. Obviously, people have been like staring at the chart go down and they're upset about it. But Thread Guy did an interview with Alon, founder of PumpFun, or co-founder, one of the founders of PumpFun. There's some good memes from that. I guess if you guys want to pull up any of the pictures, I think there's some photos to look at. But there was a big response broadly, I think, within the community around like.
I should have muted. I'm sorry.
Big response from the community, like kind of loss of faith, maybe in Alon, or just like upset by his answers. There was a big move. There's been a move in like it's trended lower since that interview. It had a big move down during that interview. I mean, Bitcoin was also down during that interview, but it was a fairly large move for the token relative to kind of the recent price action. Although it has, it's been pretty much down since, blank mode, which apparently speaks for itself according to Alon. But I don't know. I think we need to maybe hash it out. Let's talk. Yeah, Bach, you want to step in here?
I've actually been advised to not talk about this for the immediate future.
By who?
It's
leaving the airdrop.
Yeah.
We cannot share too much information on this for the time being.
Yeah, so quote from Alon, asked about potential airdrop, said nothing for the immediate future, though they do have plans to do some kind of airdrop, just no details or specifics on it yet, but potentially coming. Although personally, I don't really think that too much of the. Here's my view. I'm going to give my take, and then I want you guys to jump in and let's talk about it. But to me, the viewpoint that I have is that you have people who are long this thing, or like maybe even levered up on Pump, and they were really expecting or hoping for like a pop out the gate to the upside and not to the downside, and probably did not have a long-term view on PumpFun, but had this like shorter medium-term view of like, they just raised a shit ton of money. One of the biggest successes in crypto this cycle. Like, surely this thing can just like get a nice pop out the gate, and that didn't materialize. And then like Alon comes on the Thread Guy stream and has like nothing concrete that's like coming in the short term at the very least. And I think all these people who, wanted something short term and didn't have any expectations long term, that they're maybe getting flushed out, right? Like I don't believe in this thing, so why am I going to hold it here? And they dump it into the chart. That's kind of how I read the market reaction, but I guess I'd be curious of takes.
I think it's appropriate to start with Tolks.
Tolks, thoughts? You said you sold after the interview.
I sold. Yeah, I was long going into it. I was relatively optimistic that the absolute calm silence, just kind of moving incredibly silly on chain, like some of this stuff would be explained. There would be some type of I don't know. I mean, I didn't, expect him to reveal everything that Pump is going to do for the next year. But with the price action that we've had, the amount of money that was raised from the open market, people talking about it for, a week straight about how it's gone down only, while we're in an environment where pretty much every coin that you could have charted against Pump was just up in a straight line. I just had some assumption that there would be, I don't know, some clarity, some details, something on buybacks. I mean, he even like at one point said he can't disclose what the buyback strategy is because the lawyers advised him not to, which is, I don't know, like they're an offshore company and you just launched an ICO. Like I think that's probably the least of what the legal worry should be. To me, it seemed kind of like a cop out. But yeah, I mean, within the first 10 minutes of the interview, you could watch the chart, and yeah, I mean, it's maybe you can chalk it up to short-term noise. But yeah, I closed all longs and happily shorted a lot, which worked out well because as the interview progressed, like it just, I don't know, it wasn't. And yeah, you can partially blame maybe some of like the community and CT like expectations going into it. But I think they were very fair. Like again, this is the largest ICO we've had in like 5 years, 8 years. Like I don't think it's, I don't know. I don't think it's ridiculous for us to assume that there was going to be some more details. And to me, every answer was kind of just like, I don't know. It was like everything has been a great success. Like the token launch was great. Like, the community is great. And meanwhile, like, the night before, like he's putting 10 soul into poop Aurora coin. Like what are we actually doing here? Like, there's random buybacks. And like he did mention, like, again, like you can't talk about buybacks because of lawyers. Like you can just track it on chain. Like, is that something that is too much to ask that like we can have a clear detail of like what you're doing for the token when? I don't think that's too much at all to ask. And I think essentially every answer was kind of just, I don't know, like off-putting. And again, like it was like this has been, the greatest launch success of the past, 10 years. It's kind of how it came off to me. So yeah, I was displeased with it. And like I said, the the amount of time we've had since launch, like everything has pretty much been radio silence. Like this was, the first interview. And I think a lot of people were expecting some details on literally anything. And I think everything was it was very like, it was very kind of like politician-esque talk of just kind of avoiding things without, giving any details whatsoever. And the chart has again responded like, yeah, you can chalk it up to, BTC and the broader market going down at the same time. But like, again, you can chart any other coin against Pump since launch and everything is vertical compared to Pump. So I think the onus at some point goes onto the team and Alon and explaining what is this token actually for? And I don't think that's too much to ask.
Yeah, I think you make a lot of really great points. I kind of go back and forth on this. I guess I'll give my kind of like just the play-by-play of me interacting with this stream. Having watched equities for a long time and traded equities for a long time, it's like, something bad is happening. The CEO goes on TV and then they make commentary and they, the market responds and you can trust the market reaction. And I missed the first 9 minutes of the stream and I saw what the token was doing and I knew that Alon was speaking and my initial reaction was like, he must be doing an absolutely terrible job. I listened then to like the latter half of it. I think it was over in like 10, 20 minutes. It wasn't particularly exciting, but I obviously missed the meat of it, right? I think like that initial calm to the market is probably the most important thing. And going back and then listening to the entire communication, like definitely I would say like certainly net disappointing, but not as cataclysmic as I think crypto Twitter tried to make it out to be. But I think it depends on like the type of investor you are. Like perhaps people knew about this event and then, like you said, Tokes, like perhaps levered into it or wanted to trade the event and then didn't get what they wanted. As a longer term, as someone with a longer term perspective on Pump, like when I think of what's happened since the ICO, there's really only been one incremental piece of new information, and that's been the continued loss of market share. We wrote about the Pump TG. We said that we expected to re-rate meaningfully higher in the coming months. 7 days into its loss in market share, and we pointed that out. So for 7 straight days, the pump, the pump launchpad had been losing market share, while Axiom's kept making money, and while Bonk kept making more money. Since then, we've had 14 more days of lost market share, and that's really the only new piece of information. And I think, as far as what Pump has to do to defend itself, like there's no, you want to see the company's response to this loss of market share. We still haven't seen that. What we have seen, I think, is that a team that was used to not communicating to the market for like over a year, who didn't have to communicate to the market, now has a token and now has to get good at talking to the market. That was their first, run at it. They get a C-. I think you move on, but I don't think that like you conclude that the story is over, which is like much of the narrative right now.
Yeah, I think the new information, the Bonk point, is also why I was so frustrated, is because it kind of came off as like almost like a victory lap type interview. And it's like, you can look at the metrics, the past 3 weeks, like, and then as soon as the interview ended, like PumpFun announced that they're going to be putting 1% of, protocol fees back into the top tokens. Like it's weird to act like kind of just, it came off as like this giant incumbent that has no competition whatsoever. Meanwhile, the data suggests that every metric that you could possibly rely on, that you've been ahead for, really since launch, is just deteriorating at an increasing rate. And, like history is kind of littered with, the complacency of these large, massive companies that get beat out by smaller incumbents. And like, that was also what kind of like, again, like it almost kind of angered me in a way. Like it was just talking like, we're so committed to this, like we have this market share, we have all these grand visions, and it's like, okay, well, what's happening in the meantime? Like that matters too, and just kind of like that, I don't know, just the refusal to kind of accept like any competition and declining market share and declining metrics. Like everything is kind of down only into launch, and Bonk is executing at like an awesome rate. And to just act like, just because you have, this war chest now, everything is going to be fine. Like that's not exactly how, competition and early stage startups work. Like, the interim and the short term like matter, and everything has been against them. And this interview was kind of just, I don't know, it was very frustrating.
Yeah, I think that first question that they kind of did do a victory lap on like the largest ICO. Like I think all Alon needed to say at the end of that, but was like all he needed to do was say like, but that was the past. We're focused on the market now and how we need to do XYZ. And it's almost like the entire interview would have been changed. It would have gone from, by my view, to a C- to something much higher. But yeah, we'll see how they do communicating to the market in the future. They're obviously very new to it, and they haven't had to do it historically. So I'm excited to see what's next. I don't think that they're done shipping product, and like what they do ship on a forward basis will kind of like help us better understand their strategy. So
yeah, I think what they ship matters a lot. He made a nod to like the mobile focus. The mobile app looks great. The numbers are, at all-time highs or whatever, but it's like, of course they are. It's a very new app, and you didn't have a mobile app before. So if any amount of activity went there, then, I'd expect the numbers on there to be at kind of like highs, because there's not much historical data. But I think it opened up a question mark for me. Like I would love to see them ship a little bit harder in the direction of, like, I think they have a few credible threats right now, right? There's discussion of Bonk and Radium, but then as well, like, I don't know, we've talked about this a lot, Ryan, with Axiom. So much of the flow between all of these launch pads is determined by just third-party trading apps, and like Pump is not competing there today. Like they just absolutely are not. They don't have a comparable. I mean, they have a simple kind of like pro experience on the web app now, and the mobile app is like getting slowly, like marginally better in that direction. But I do think there's like a night and day experience difference between Pump products and like using something like an Axiom and even other trading apps that are like really tailor made for the people that like get in and do the most volume in the trenches right now and do all this sniping and like are trading in and out of these things constantly. I think it's great to have a view, like even Phantom as well, right? Like their mobile first approach. I think it almost maybe works better for them because of the like probably higher retail usage of the Phantom wallet to a broader extent, and like just wanting to use the products baked in there. But people who are like trading the meme coins in the trenches like day in and day out, like are probably more of a prosumer audience today. And I think like you really need to cater to that now and then build that bridge to the future broader like mass appeal retail audience. I think if you're Pump or if you're Axiom, if you're Bonk. So to me, it's just like, okay, now you have an extra 1.3 billion, but you guys have already made a bunch of money. You've expanded the team. Like I would like to just see you ship a little bit faster, to be quite honest. Let's see some improvement there. Because when I go and pull up the Axiom page, it's like every week, yep, we ship these 15 new features for you trenchers out there. And you'll see a new update every single week, and I don't see that from Pump.
Yeah,
but I would like to see that.
I mean, there's also a thing here to say that these guys made 800 mil, and they probably don't need to ship that much anymore. Like they might just be comfortable with what they made. They raised an ICO. They have plans to launch a few things. Maybe they're not as hungry as the Axiom guys. The Axiom guys didn't. I mean, they made a lot of money, but
I don't know. I don't think that they took the $800 million home and put it under their mattress. Like I think it's in an entity, and there are investors that believe that it's a going concern.
I don't know. I also can't imagine early investors are happy. Recent investors are not happy. Retail is not happy. I mean, this is probably the time where you're like, you know what? Like, sentiments at peak low. Chart looks fucking horrible. It's down 60-70%. Let's make a movie, but like, are you?
What does make a movie mean? That means let's buy the token.
Let's do something, anything good. See, that was the thought process going into the interview too, and it was just like, it's been down only since launch. Like, you would assume that. Again, part of it too is like again, the public was willing to give you the money, but like, I don't know. There's something just a little like, I don't know. It doesn't sit well with me that like you raise that amount of money and like this is how you've operated in the 2.5 weeks since. Like like I don't know.
That's also operated, I don't know. Communication could have been better, but operated, like what do we expect them to do in that small 2-week period? And does it even matter? Like I honestly don't think that matters at all. I think
That's
that we're focused.
You don't think Bonk matters at all?
Bonk does not matter. It's Axiom that matters because Axiom controls the flow.
Bonk is 80% of the volume right now. Like, yes, maybe eventually in the future, but
Bonk's making $1 million a day and Axiom's making $3 million. That like the launchpad stuff underneath is a distraction. I think it's all at the top layer.
I think I would generally agree with that right now because I envision this future like, what's to stop Axiom from making the launchpad and having the slop complex go there when all the traders are already there, and then and then they run a flywheel, and it's like, and if you trade through the Axiom app and you trade the coins from Axiom. Like, and I think any of these platforms could actually do that, right? Like if you had the front end and the back end, then you can have a little bit of like a double dip flywheel where it's like if you're trading coins and creating them on our platform and using our trading app at the same time, there's like a little bit of like a bonus, get some referral rewards, build up that stack.
But doesn't Bonk have telemetry and BonkBot as well?
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing that doesn't. That's why I'm sure Bonk's done a lot of great things for Solana. So the story goes, I believe that story. I've used their products over time. They're nothing to write home about. If you go to BonkBot today, I mean, it's not the Axiom experience. And what they've been around for 2 years, like shipping products of that quality. Like, I think it's pretty obvious. I don't know how obvious it is. I think it's justified to not be, screaming with your hair on fire like it's the end of Pump because Bonk took some market share for 25 days.
But I don't think people care about the Bonk thing that much. I think people just care about like Pump not doing well, and the main thing that they point at is like A, communications, B, they haven't done anything good. Like objectively, since the ICO, they haven't done a single good thing, right? Like they bought back the token not at good prices or with enough size. Like they did this awkward thing where they bought the literal Pico top, painted the top, they top blasted it, and then afterwards they were like, "Oh, we're actually just gonna buy 20K a day," and then they had horrible comms. I think most people are just bothered about that, and the main competitor that they can point to is Bonk, and then the argument that comes back is, "Oh, Bonk, you should actually not worry about Bonk. You should worry about Axiom." No, you should worry about Bonk, because they're very clearly playing a game where they're like undermining Pump. They're waiting for the stream to be over to announce news. They're launching their launchpad a week before they do the ICO. Like it's very carefully designed, clearly. And I imagine there's like multiple parties involved as well to work on this. And on top of that, there's the potential threat of Axiom. It's not like, oh, you shouldn't worry about Bonk, you should worry about Axiom. I think they're both threats. I don't know how credible of a threat Bonk will be in the long term if Axiom launches its own token launchpad. That's a different story. But at the current state, Bonk is clearly a strong competitor with more products out than Pump has, first of all. More avenues to revenue than Pump has. They have more products. They have more products that are used more. Bonkbot is the opposite end of the barbell to Axiom.
Yeah, but I think BonkBot's not. They're not in the conversation. Like I would imagine the PumpFun mobile app does more than BonkBot today. They're doing a few million in volume a day. It's like a zero in the Solana trading bot space. They were very big back in early 2024 though. That like they dominated, and then like everyone came in and iterated.
That's the interesting thing about the Pro Trader terminal thing. Like Axiom's done a fantastic job. I love the app. I think it's fantastic. But the turnover there has been quite high, and it's like, how do you make that app sticky? I think that it's mobile, and no one's really done the mobile trading pro terminal well yet. So that's why I think that Axiom is perhaps vulnerable, and that's why Pump having a mobile app I think is meaningful. Oh shit!
This freaking guy. You done with work now? Come on.
Well, I'm
Summer
free.
Fridays. It's clearly Summer Fridays.
I think
People with real jobs don't work on Fridays.
I want to round out maybe the Bach Ryan combo there. Like I think Bonk like solidifies the concern around like an Axiom or like owning the interface, right? If the flow never shifted, then like the market wouldn't have been presented with this like big concern of like, oh, these back end things that have the tokens launched on them, like that those coins can go anywhere. Meanwhile, this trading app is still just printing. The fact that it did happen, I think it revealed that weakness. Like I think we kind of knew that was a concern for months now. We've been talking about it, but it just kind of proved the point. And so now you have to question some of the durability of the revenues of like, well, if the flows and the coins can shift elsewhere, then like how much do you discount that activity, or like how do you actually value that going forward? And then if the like interface trading activity is the more meaningful part, like what do they need to do to get that, and can they like meaningfully compete with like the existing prosumer terminal and like trading apps today?
Also, can we say that Pump made an attack, not an attack, but whatever, they did something hostile towards Radium, in which they brought Pump Swap in, and then Radium built out Launch Lab and actually made it semi-successful so far. Like it's only been 2 weeks that Bonk Fund's been doing well, but it's like a pretty good counter.
Yeah, it definitely punched back. Like it's in the immediate term, like that Pump Swap move has kind of been has kind of backfired on them right now.
I got a question for you, since you're pretty smart on the trading terminal stuff. Like what do you guys think is the main moat for stuff like Axiom? And like what do you think they need to do to prevent like an incumbent from spinning up just something marginally better with slightly better fees and like see people poured over? Like I'm always just curious if it's a double-edged sword that these things can generate revenue so quickly and get off the ground. Like does that make them susceptible to someone coming in and just vampiring them off?
It does.
Yeah, I like right now what I would say is they're shipping like crazy, and obviously they're making money, and I think the big thing is like they're sort of doing I mean, a mobile app would be great, like Ryan mentioned, like kind of just hit both of those things, right? Have the pro terminal, slap out a mobile app that's maybe even like a little more less prosumer and like more retail oriented, but to capture both pieces of that, but keep shipping like crazy. I feel like the big downfall often in these is like if you look back throughout a lot of these trading like app teams, is they hit it really big, right? Like they drop the next big iteration and they kill it for like 5-6 months, and then like naturally, you know, when you make $300 million, you slow down and you don't ship the next big update, or like you don't think of the next cool thing to come to market. Axiom did like, you know, let's do Solana memes and like really clean up the desktop prosumer terminal experience, plus, you know, add Hyperliquid perps in there. It's just a good like, it's a good step change over what the existing trading apps were. And then they like kind of iterated on the rewards flywheel of like, you know, let's do the referral rewards, let's give people points, like let's give them cash back, let's do all that stuff to like keep them on the platform. But I completely agree with you that like if another team comes in and they, you know, ship one step better of a product, or like a meaningfully better product than Axiom, like there's very much a chance that they could steal away market share, especially if they slow down, if they cool off. That's what's happened historically over the past 2-3 years, every time.
Yeah, and that's, I always wonder like if part of Hyperliquid's thinking with like, you know, having tokens to unlock fee discounts, if that's something that these guys would think about doing in the future to kind of lock in users and force them to be, you know, like economically aligned with the protocol to lock them in, so to speak.
I think that the wedge is a mobile app with social state. So something that, you know, once you have social state, it's incredibly hard to get rid of an app. One of the things that the Pump app is doing is like chat within communities per coin on the mobile app. Not saying that I think that that's it, but something unique to keep, you know, once you get enough state, it's hard to move from an app. So I think that's what they're focusing on, and that's the wedge, because historically the trading terminal apps have not been sticky. You just port to the next one with the best features, and that's it.
That's an interesting point, though, James. Kind of what like all the centralized exchanges do, where it's like if you do certain amounts of volume, you get like lower like maker taker fees. But I think the problem there for like launch pads in general is like there's not people that would want to be like consistently trading a lot of these things just to trade them. Whereas like there's plenty of people that they know they're going to be trading like Bitcoin over like, you know, X time horizon and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm just kind of curious in how any of these launch pads really kind of facilitate their like long-term moat really, or like if there is one, like just like from like the pure way like they're making fees, like just like trading and all these other things, coins that are launched. I do think there's just like a lot of stuff that goes on in the background that still is like just very opaque that, you know, we've talked about for a while. So I think it's just kind of hard to quantify the incentives there for like industrial deployers, industrial traders, if you want to call them that. Like there's not people that are trading these things because like they're like directly long these meme coins. They're trading these things because they're getting volume, and you know they're making money off of dumb flow or retail, or whatever you want to call it. So I think it's just that's an interesting question to see how that plays out over the longer term.
Yeah, I do think I'll comment. Well, I guess two thoughts. Like one on the social thing that Ryan mentioned. Like I feel like a strategy that you see actually from a lot of the trading apps is the reason that the referral scheme, like referral rewards design, works very well is because you get these, you know, larger personalities within CT or like trading communities. And if you onboard that one guy who's got 1,000 followers, and then that, you know, and they're going to all trade on the app too. And you give that guy a nice big kickback from the trading fees and volume that his followers onboard. It's like it gives them an incentive to hop on. But that probably also fuels like each of these iterative like rotations to another platform where like they don't actually hold any loyalty to it beyond the fact that you know, it just happened to be the one that they got referred to join. So if the next kind of like crew of traders goes to the new platform, and they get offered a slightly better deal, or maybe they think that they're early to the new one, and it's about to do a bunch of volume or whatever, more people will use it. It's like there's an incentive for them to then hop on board kind of the new entrant and maybe earn a bunch of kind of kickback referral fees.
And I also think this is kind of like, if you think about this stuff just as akin to gambling, which I think it is, it's very similar to like the online sports gambling market we have now, both like onshore and offshore. It's not like there's a single monopoly, right? But everyone's quoting the same exact odds on different platforms. Like there's no reason FanDuel is going to subsume DraftKings and vice versa. So like I don't see a universe where there's not, a dozen of these things floating around, all kind of doing the same thing, and people just have their own little niche that they prefer a platform for.
Yeah. So if you guys were Alon, what are you doing Monday morning? Like you're the one at the wheel. What are you doing to turn everything around? I think Ryan touched on like, market comms. I'm curious if anyone else has any other like things that they think like, the team could do better, like starting on Monday.
I think they should rip the slop industrial complex and just build it. Like you want to have the tokens on your platform, like you're losing flow to Bonk because the deployers went to Bonk and they're not deploying on Pump, but like
Be the employer.
Nobody says you can't just do them all yourself. Like just spin up the bot, spin up the algo, and just make sure that there's 30K tokens a day like there were before. And then, if you can put some incentives behind that, like I think they can play with the flywheel. They have a token now. Bonk is doing it. And I think at least right now, like that excites people.
Question: do you deploy token incentives yourself, or do you wait till Bonk runs out? It's a very expensive game to play.
Yeah, I mean, Bonk is also
that's like that.
Well, if they're feeding a big chunk of it from the fees that are generated from trading on the platform, it's like, do they run out? Like, I think you kind of have to go on the offensive, at least to an extent. Like, maybe you don't need to like take your 800 mil and just shove it into coins, but like, you can take some of the fees that you're making right now and shove some of those in additionally.
Well, they've only had a few days. What have they done? 15 days in a row or 25 days in a row with $1 million a pop. So they have 25 million real dollars, and then they have a bunch of Bonk bucks that they can deploy, which is much harder to do, and then hurts you as the supply side sells.
I guess the downside that kind of Pump has relative to Bonk is probably that like the Bonk team, and when they launch these products, they do this like. I mean, they've been pretty consistent about, we're just going to take all the fees from this and just like buy back and burn the token. And I think they're aligned with that because the core like development team behind Bonk, I'm sure they all probably own a nice big bag of Bonk themselves and have for a long time, or maybe it's still vesting. I don't know the specifics on, the maybe team vest there, if that's like complete and they're just kind of, they run these initiatives and maybe they sell little bits here and there, but they're kind of aligned behind buying back their own token if they own it. And the same might be true for Pump, but like if you want to invest that money to do other things, you got to fight in a couple directions.
Yeah, I mean, Pump got away for years. I mean, years, 12 months, 14 months, with not doing any that's why it was such an incredible story. It's like one of the few projects that they didn't need to deploy incentives. I mean, you got to be thinking that they think that they can keep doing this without token incentives and just let Bonk burn through cash, assuming that that's what they're doing, which no one seems to know what Bonk is doing to get the volume, but you got to assume that there's some kickbacks.
There's also like, I mean, go ahead, James.
No, I was just going to say, I think like if Pump's number one plan is like a financial engineering flywheel with incentives, as opposed to like a net new product to bring in more users, I think that signals that they're in a lot of trouble. Like if the big reveal is like XYZ token incentives for new deployers, like that to me would be pretty bearish, as opposed to like a new product.
Agree.
Yeah, I do think there is, though. I'll just say, like, I think there is like actual competition though over the fee flow so like they rolled out Pump Swap. They give 5 bips to the creator. I can't tell you off the top of my head what that is for Launch Lab or like Bonk coins, but I'm just gonna imagine it's a bigger number, and they went around and like essentially marketed it to the deployers and said like, there's no reason you shouldn't deploy on Bonk than Pump, because all the trading doesn't even come from Pump, like it comes from Axiom or trading bots. So like you'll get more money if you just deploy over here, because like we're giving you more of the fees. So I don't know, like to an extent, I would agree with you, James. Like if financial engineering is like the only play, like that's not ideal. But I do think that probably you meaningfully have to like compete in that realm, at least to some extent. He did mention that they are going to be making some kind of changes to like PumpSwap 2.0. I would imagine maybe that involves some kind of change to what the fee structure looks like and how much goes where and what the total aggregate fee that people pay for tokens swapped on the platform is. But I think the other big thing is like, I mean, and we've talked about it a million times, like you need a really good like front end interface for people to use. And I think they need to really iterate on that product like faster.
Yeah, I think, Danny, what you said on them in-housing essentially like all the deployment of like new coins could be really, really lucrative. Because like they could also just like waive their fees there. I don't think it's like cool. Like you're doing like creator incentives for like people that launch coins. It's like great. But like at the end of the day, I think like it's largely still an attention game. And if you could just like in-house all the bots that are scraping the internet, looking for like culturally relevant things and launching coins around those, because it's like ultimately like what meme coins are. It's just like they're exactly the same as memes. Like they're just attention games, but we put a financial price on them through markets, which is hilarious.
Yeah, the interesting thing too, like just to add, is like if you're the market maker, if you're the Slop Industrial Complex creator of a bunch of these coins, like then you don't have to necessarily like dump them into the chart when you're like finished with it. They could just create these coins, and like you said, like they don't have to pay a fee for swapping on their own platform. Like it's money they're paying themselves. So what, they got to pay the priority fees, and that's it. Just the fees to get a transaction landed on Solana. If you're doing thousands of those, it adds up. But like if it brings millions in additional volume because you got more tokens, there's a clear like value statement to be made.
Would it be possible, do you think, for Alon to drop a meme coin that meaningfully reaches like close to the size of Pump's valuation? And would that be good or bad?
Well, Farcoin exists.
No, I'm serious. Like that to me would be a very humorous outcome if he drops like a really stupid shitter and it rips to like half a bill. Like what does that say?
You mean
It's not out of the question.
Is that what you're asking, James?
I think it would be positive.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think if he launched an actual coin, I think you just short pump and shove everything possible into the new coin, because people will be like, "Oh, the valuations. Why buy pump at 2 billion when there's the new coin that he launched at 25 million?" And then I think
you
eventually,
pair trade it.
I think they eventually both go down a lot.
I think you buy it and you ride it, and you don't do the short leg because it'll be accretive to the pump valuation.
Yeah,
The big investors aren't going to sell their pump because he launched a meme coin. This might be
You don't think so? If you were an investor in there and you were like, why is he launching coins?
Not if it drives billions more volume on the platform because he ran a token up to 2 billion market cap or whatever.
Yeah, Alon, if you're listening, it's time to launch a coin.
This is free advisory right here.
Yeah, I'm getting a call from Alon's lawyers. We're supposed to stop talking about any Alon created meme coins.
I mean, they still are doing like a 25% buyback as well on top of all of that. Like, it seems to be like a daily thing. So I definitely think that would be like helpful for the protocol. But yeah, I think anything they can do to incentivize more trading, just like, so I guess like really incentivizing the supply side and just seeing where the demand shows up organically. Because like I think the more effort you put on trying to incentivize demand on like assets that are like entirely worthless, more or less, from like an intrinsic value standpoint, I think that's like kind of a dumb game to play. But I think people will happily decide for you what assets are valuable in the meme coin space, at least. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, Danny.
Oh, MST at Radium said it's 5 bips. I think that was in reference to the pump portion of fees that goes to the creator, unless he was referencing Launch Lab or Bonk. Maybe he'll clarify, but yeah. Either way, I think it would be interesting if any of these platforms. Let's Bonk fund fees to creators 5 bips. Okay. Thank you for clarifying. I think it'd be interesting if any of these platforms like set up the algo and spat out the tokens themselves. Like I don't think there's really a good reason necessarily not to.
I wonder what the daily cost of creating thousands of tokens, because the user pays for them now, right?
Yeah, I guess like they'll whatever SOL they have to put into the initial bonding curve if they do decide to do that. But like you can also have it like on a timed way where it's like, okay, like just have SOL in these coins there. If like the token doesn't graduate within like a week, just like remove the SOL and like then like just burn the meme coin there. It's kind of like just keep playing, see what hits. Like I think that's where the initial like cost would actually be, is just like kind of facilitating the capital at the very beginning to get like the bonding curve going of any sort. But I mean, you can also even have that like lower. Like what is it right now for like
bonding curves?
Yeah, for different platforms. Like what's like the initial amount of SOL that's in there?
Oh, I don't know the number of SOL, but I mean, you're looking at like hitting what 70 to 100K market cap ish. The SOL amount is, I mean, it's probably a small.
I think Pump does their bonding curve denominated in SOL. Like I think it needs like 69.
Of course.
Like
That's so awesome.
0.42. Yeah, it's super cool. It's super cool. It's sick.
You make a good point though, Ian. Like if you ran it yourself, then you could recapture all the rent and like just set a timed thing of, you know, if tokens go below X market cap for X amount of time, like just.
And I think people would like that, you know, because there's so much like dog shit on the feed. It's just like prune it, right? Get rid of the dead wood.
Yeah, like there's so much SOL that's locked in a lot of these like shitters now. Like, yeah, like there's a material amount of SOL locked in random tokens that no one could ever name.
Do you think the team would like? Do you think people would like try to market these coins, or are you just saying like create 30,000 pieces of shit every single day and just let them hang out at like 6K market cap and see if other people discover them? Or are they gonna like, you know, hire people in other countries in Southeast Asia to like post about them on Twitter and stuff?
I think like just like facilitate the supply side and let the demand side come naturally. Because I think like that, like ultimately like weird things like that will end up happening. Like you're gonna have people that are gonna be like, this is the one, or like these are the ones, and then just like use like their industrial slop marketing, you know, being like, you know, like these are the hot tokens of the day. But I don't think like the team themselves should be like trying to anoint coins. I think they should just like throw a bunch of supply at the market and see who bites, and then on top of that, like let creators continue to like organically launch their own coins. Because like obviously like there's some people that are like manually launching a coin here and there, and then you also have like the guys who are like, you know, like the Kanye West of Pump.Fun, where it's like three shitters a day for like every day all summer. You know, it's like just manually waking up, launching a meme coin, going to sleep. Like there's like, I remember I saw like a tweet one time about like a guy who's doing that, because it was clearly like not a bot, because there was like it was spaced out too like strange.
Yeah.
He ended up cleaning like a good amount on that, which is hilarious. But I don't think we should overemphasize too much on like the creator side here of like these are like it's roughly in line with like Zora content. Like at the end of the day, it's like it's slop. Like no one really cares about this content itself. Like people want to trade the attention of it. So like, yeah, I don't think
that's true.
do that.
But there is stuff like the algorithmically like AI generated like really horrific slop. Like if you just go to like new coins, it's like Bonky McBonkster face, like in 85 versions
Yeah.
of that. Like if you're just creating an endless supply of that, like I don't think that's the supply issue. Like I think that's just even more like F tier slop. Like it's all trash, but you need to at least be like somewhat elegant with it and like at least pretend to be clever.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
the curation aspect is the important part, right? Like you want to build like the ones that are successful, right, are these deployers that are like algorithmically like creating coins around news and hot events, and like they're doing like the YouTube algo thing, but with tokens, where it's like they're generating like what they think the best ticker and the best description and all that is based on, you know, articles that they're like feeding through an LLM, and it's saying like, yeah, like let's do, you know, Hogan ticker for the recent, you know, because he died or whatever, and it'll be a tribute to Hulk Hogan. I agree with you, James. Like if you're just if you're spitting out like Bonk 1, Bonk 2, Bonk 3, Bonk 4, like that's not going to be great. But we already know that like for like relatively matter of factly that there are accounts that just do this today. Like there are mass deployers that do algorithmic token creation based on news feeds, stuff that's happening. And they make a ton of money. And like, I mean, they create the token and maybe they instantly dump the thing into anyone that buys it. And that's tends to be profitable for them. But as a team, like you could do that. I mean, maybe you just need to hire one of these teams to do that for your platform, or you build it out. Like either way, it doesn't feel like there's downside when that's kind of like what's driving a majority of like the token creation and small time trading right now.
Yeah, they should talk to Ian. He's a serial deployer and rugger. So if they need any help, Ian can help.
It's my forte. My favorite pastime. My passion, if you will. I don't actually do that. Let's clarify that.
He doesn't. He doesn't. He's a good guy.
I've lost so much money on just like buying Chill X. Like I would like I just saw Chill Hulk.
At permissionless, this guy was like, "It's the chill house meta, but like anything, anything but chill house."
But
That was the top.
Totally missed Chill House.
It's like, yeah, because even if you like have 1 billion tokens a day or whatever, it's like stuff like Chill House will ultimately come through where it's like it's just so stupid that like it's almost hard for like an AI to be like, yeah, like that's funny. Because it's just taking like two like it was like House Coin and Chill Guy Coin and then Chill House. Like it's just dumb. It's hard to, I mean, when the LLMs are getting to that level of slop, like the brain rot is prevalent.
I don't think, yeah, and I don't
ways
think
we can never
LLMs,
imagine.
I don't think they can think on a deep enough or reason on a deep enough level to understand why Chill House was so funny and so good. Like I don't think they're quite there yet.
I don't know, GPT-5, man. Sam Altman said he was amazed. Like it just understood this thing that he had to really think about. That kind of sounds like a Chill House type of application.
Yeah, like you have to think that AI is outperforming humans on so many different dimensions now. Like if you own the feed of meme coin creation and subsequent market caps, like why couldn't you excel at that? I don't think you need a human.
I also wonder if a lot of the deployers, which I wouldn't be surprised about this, are also like then trading these things. Like obviously like there's gonna be like rugging stuff, but like I think the smarter deployer bots would probably also let it breathe a bit if it does break out. So I think that's another thing to maybe consider in like this model though. Like how much of because like I mean like last fall and winter, it's like we saw a couple of coins run to levels that were just like absurd, and you have to assume like that wasn't all organic. Like, there's probably like some weird stuff going on, but it's like also I don't know. That's all speculation.
Well, if you think you have like a elegant deployer model that like can take in news and create good coins, then it obviously would reason to follow that you can turn that on the market itself and trade it based on the same like training set, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I'm just pulling up the data on this since we have it. And now that Bonk and Launch Lab are doing the most tokens, they're doing like on the order of mid 20,000 token launches a day, and the top 100 addresses are doing 6 to 9,000 of that. So, on the order of like a third, and the top 1,000 are doing, upwards of 15,000. So, more than 50%. So large majority of all the coins being created are, these few addresses at any given time. It was the same for Pump. The data is not as exciting now that the numbers are smaller for Pump, but it was the exact same dynamic where you had, the top 100 creators were doing thousands of the like 30, 40,000 tokens a day. So like we know this is happening because you're not setting up this bot to just deploy 1,000 tokens and lose money consistently every day. There's clearly the incentives clearly aligned where like they are turning positive profit by creating these things constantly and like in a timely manner or like with the right ticker at the right times to, if that's just creating it and like dumping your supply immediately, or if that's like catching the, 5 BIP creator reward that you get when it graduates and then trades on the AMM. It's clearly paying out for these guys, or they wouldn't just be consistently spinning these things out over and over again.
Great data.
I wish we
What's the
had.
next-
We'll have to maybe dig some more and see like if we can get more granular on like profitability of those guys like on chain. I think we might have that for Pump, but it would be interesting now to see the numbers specifically for Launch Lab. I'll have to annoy Sharples again. He's been all over this stuff. I don't know. We've been going for a while, guys. Anything, James? I know you wanted to talk about something actually, maybe before we close out for the day.
Did I forget already? Oh yeah. Sorry. No, I was just curious. Like, where do you guys think we are in terms of like what are opportunities you're looking at in the market? And I'll frame it by saying like my own mental model now is like if you're focused on majors and like getting additional entries, it's probably the wrong time to be doing that. And if you're not already like fully allocated from much better levels, I'm not sure like there's really any good risk reward of like buying Sol ETH BTC here. But I do think we're at like an interesting stage of the market where like you can find really scammy stuff that's going to run from like 5 mil to 100 mil in a couple days. And like that's kind of where I'm spending most of my time focused on those opportunities. Just curious, like what you guys think the opportunity set is for the next couple months.
I kind of think it's an alt, like you said. I mean, you kind of said the 5 to 100 mil, like that will definitely be the case as well. But I think I mentioned last week, like it's interesting that there's been so much talk about how kind of cycles aren't relevant anymore, and I generally agree with that. I think BTC is like institutionalized in a way that maybe the drawdowns won't be as severe. But as soon as everybody started saying kind of the normal cycles like aren't a thing anymore, BTC ran to all-time highs, ETH runs 75% in a week, and then alts start going crazy, like kind of at the exact time that the same scenario happened in the past. And then I mean even today, like it's just kind of a one-day snapshot, but really this week, like BTC is down like 2% today, and there's a lot of alts that are down less and or green on the day, and it's kind of been like that this week too. So I think we're kind of in that later stage traditional type cycle where BTC ripped, and I think BTC will make some new highs again before the end of the year, if I had to say. But I do think it is interesting that kind of, I don't know, all the talk is cycles have ended, alts are dead, and then as soon as that kind of peaks, BTC rips. What happens next? ETH rips. What happens after that? Sol rips, and then alts rip. It's kind of the exact playbook that we've had every 4-year cycle. Like I said, I'm not like a strong believer in that would be the case moving forward, but I do think it is pretty interesting to monitor at this stage. And I mean, we've seen the ETH BTC rally, the past month or so as well. And again, that's just kind of traditional, like how stuff has worked. And so I think that's pretty interesting. But what that would lead me to focus on at this point is alts generally. Kind kind of stuff that has, structural bid, buybacks. I kind of been bull posting about ENA lately just because of the announcement, the treasury vehicle that they have, 5 mil in buybacks a day. Plus you have kind of ETH beta for whatever that's worth. And then stablecoin narrative attached to it as well. So just kind of looking for idiosyncratic stuff like that. But I do think alts at this point, with how beaten down they've been and how we are kind of playing out the classic cycle in a way, I think that should probably be the focus moving forward.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think look, long term, I'm very, very bullish. I think it's all that matters is for risk assets is AI. But so like I think any dip is to be bought. I think over next 2 months, I think is what you said, James. And I think TradFi markets have been pretty hot. I think they need to slow down a bit over the next 2 months, and that should give you some pretty interesting opportunities in the long tail, which is crypto stuff. I really like deep in things. I think you can pick your spots, accumulate over the long term, and I think you have some obvious winners there.
Speaking of deep end, Helium, they're like toying around with wrapping Nova equity like all into one entity underneath the H&T token? Because I mean, I saw it was I traded a little bit on that announcement, and then I mean, I think it's up close to like 100% the past month. And that just goes to kind of what we were talking about earlier in the show, just like buybacks and token versus equity, like them wrapping into one kind of pure asset like is really good for the market. The market responded too.
Yeah, I think that there's an obvious trend where the market's punishing the bad token issuers, and I think you're going to see a lot more teams move in that direction by really cleaning things up, especially like with our transparency effort, kind of pushing people in the right way as well. But Helium is also a special story in that, man, like that's probably the project with the most like real world PMF. Like that's like not inward looking, like crypto only. There's like some like AT&T's paying them money, like meaningful amounts of money, and the valuation got pretty low relative to what they were bringing in and what was on the horizon. And yeah, I think that was like kind of like perfect storm with that announcement. I think that the team's doing everything right.
Yeah, stuff like that is really, really exciting. I mean, Helium was kind of like one of my, outside of like Bitcoin, was like one of my first loves in crypto. I was just like, this just makes so much sense in the world. And I still point people towards like Helium and that Helium map that like you can look at when people ask about kind of what, the impact and what is the use case of a token and how you can, I don't know, just kind of compete with the incumbents through these new capital markets. It's still one of like, I think the best examples that we have.
It's also
very
this.
similar about stepping.
Well, I'm pointing that it's one of these examples. Oh geez, what was that? Oh shit. Hey, can you guys
try again?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, I think I have like terrible. Helium's a good example of why you need to wait. Like that project's been around forever. And patience is it takes a long time for a lot of these things to get to PMF. A lot of things in crypto, like new projects in crypto, are increasingly like they're like not a DEX, especially in the deep in space. Like you can't just like open up and then start collecting fees, like 100 million in fees, and then go to zero the next day. Like these things are building real businesses, and like it's going to take some patience with a lot of these stories. And I think those are the ones I'm excited about because they're going to be discarded by normal crypto participants that are looking for a quick buck and not willing to look at stuff like Helium. I think that makes it attractive.
I also think just in like Helium's, like you're saying, AT&T paying them like, real world, like hardware distributed across the globe, like that also opens up, you can point to Helium and what they've done. And it kind of, in a way, like you could underrate that as like an institution. And what we were talking about at the top of the show was just like not fighting the institutional and treasury flows that are into just the two blessed assets of BTC and ETH right now. But stuff like Helium, like you can easily see to where I don't know, the larger capital markets would be interested in something like that because of what they have. And like those, again, just like the size of US traditional markets, like it can't ever be like overstated how large they are. So having tokens that can have some potential access to that is massive.
Yeah. I have a James question. Over the next couple, I think you're gonna see like
Ian, your mic
is
I can't tell if he's doing it intentionally, to be honest.
I can't tell if he's
Try leaving and coming back. I think your mic got killed.
Is it still horrible now?
No,
Oh,
it's good.
you're better now. You're better.
I thought it was a
Okay.
bit. You were talking at like 0.2 speed, and I was like, I think he might be mocking me. I don't know.
I thought he was doing a bit too. It was so impressive and clear and slow.
No, but yeah, to go back to James's like original question, I think over the next couple of months, I think tokens that or projects that put an emphasis on value accrual solely to the token and not labs will outperform meaningfully, especially those that have like proven product market fit. And honestly, like if you don't have like PMF, you can't really put. It doesn't matter if like you're all aligned around the token because like there's nothing going to it. So I think you'll see over the next like months and year probably some DeFi juggernauts really cement themselves as like core winners, just because they're going to accrue all value to one token. I think in crypto as well, like the moat is between capital and mechanisms, because like everything's open source. So like you really just need to like, have the right incentives to people come use your platform, stay there, and then accrue value back to the token and try to keep it going that way. But yeah, I think we're starting to see a couple teams now like fully rally around just their token itself. And I assume that trend continues as people see the market react positively to this. Because like that labs token structure has always been like so weird for people. So I think that's what we see. And then in terms of, I guess, like how treasury codes play out and all that, TBD. But yeah, I think that's like from the protocol standpoint, I think that's how we see things play out over like the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think I would generally agree. Like I'd be broadly more excited for tokens and teams that are leaning more on this transparency angle, aligning more of the value to the token rather than the equity. I feel like I'm just kind of repeating what everyone else said, but it's like we played that game for a long time where like I guess if you really wanted to hold the uni token and bet on them, that maybe you were excited a few years ago, and then like they just never did anything with it, and the labs team is really eating.
Comfy.
Yeah, I don't want to ever see that again. Like I would never want to like be stuck holding this thing that's literally a meme when you know that the protocol is printing cash because it's a successful product. So yeah, I think teams that step in that direction are going to, excite people more. They'll gain trust because I think that's kind of what the market requires right now from you is like a little bit of trust. There's no guarantees of anything in this space. Like the equity holders might have some contracts and some guarantees, but the token holders don't have any contracts or guarantees around what the token is. And so you kind of have to like build trust through that. And if that's buybacks, if that's, driving revenue towards a token in different ways, merging the equity entity underneath the token or something along those lines. Like I think these different pathways are going to have to be explored, and that's where you could maybe like have faith or trust and like believe in the longer term success of the token itself. But I do think, to Ian's last comment, treasury companies, that's a big question mark. I don't know the timelines on like all of these pipe deals and like when some of the big ones and the insiders into those like start unlocking, but I do think that would be like a big question mark because right now there's sort of like an infinite bid from those into like different coins like ETH. There's like billions just like getting shoved into ETH whenever they can, clear, share dilution onto the market, given the volume today. When those pipe investors like are not stuck holding those companies, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to look on the markets.
All good things come to an end.
James, you want to close it out for us? Give us your takes, and then we'll clear for the day.
On treasury stuff or just in general?
Everything. You asked everyone what their thoughts were for the next few months, so we need yours.
Yeah, I'm like I think I'm pretty moderate to slightly pessimistic. I definitely want to get long
No
a lot of
shit.
I want to get long scams early on in their price action. I say that like jokingly, but I'm actually serious. I think that's kind of the time in the market where people are going to get frustrated that they haven't made enough money on majors, or they like chop themselves up trading perps, and they're going to bid like really, really dumb crap really, really high. So I think there's probably some interesting opportunities over the next couple months to, buy some runners and vaporware products.
Yeah, 100 million TPS coming to a network near you soon, and a token that can run to an infinite price.
Exactly.
That's what everyone's looking for. Awesome. We'll close it out there, unless anyone has some last thoughts. But I think that was a good end to the discussion today. Thanks for hopping on today, boys. Great discussion of all things pump and launch pads. I think we're all waiting for the slop industrial complex to just grow even more. I know Ian's excited for it. Maybe he's getting involved there. We'll see. James,
I have one more thing to say. There's a guy in the comments. Did you guys talk about the commenters yet?
Which ones?
Big Suck. Big Suck
Our fans?
says, yeah, that's right. I'm starting to like this Ian guy. Keep going, man. Followed up by Jew mode. So thank you, Big Suck. Thanks for tuning in. Ian, you have a new fan.
That's big, man. Shout out Big Suck.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Have a good weekend,
Always
guys.
reminder.
You know what they say? It's self-explanatory. It speaks for itself. So. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for coming on, guys, and we will see you all next week.